Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope everyone out there is having a great day. So, welcome to the program. So, live radio being what it is, we try to connect with our guests. So today on the show, we had scheduled on a company called Zebit, Zebit with a Z, and yeah, we had that all set up. We were going to talk with them about what they do, how they do it, that kind of thing, and turns out, unavailable. So we will reschedule them for later in the week or possibly whenever they're available next. But if you were expecting Zebit, then unfortunately, it's going to have to be in another show. So today is entirely dedicated to computer and technology news, unless I get a word from our producers that say that they're waiting for us. So potentially Zebit, but not counting on it. And in the meantime, we're going to do computer and technology news. So a lot to, of course, go over there. And actually one story I wanted to jump off right on the bat. So before we get started, computeramerica.com, that will have everything in the show notes, including anything that we talk about today, any articles that we cover, any videos that we show, anything that we do on the program here today. You can, of course, find it at computeramerica.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the live video stream, which you can also find at twitch.tv/Computer America. And then last but not least, why don't you go ahead and check out the new revamped Computer America. So for our website, we like to tinker with it every once in a while. And we just made a change about a week or two ago. You may have noticed that we switched it to night mode. So first of all, that was kind of a personal choice. I got tired of staring at a bright white screen for hours on end working on it. So hey, everyone, enjoy night mode. And then second of all, we redid the homepage so that the video is up front and center. And then the streaming page has all of the different places you can find Computer America. And by the way, folks, if anyone out there, really listens to us on one of the other applications, we'll be happy to throw a player in there as well. It's just, hey, we tried to get all the ones that we could really think of. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news again while we wait for Zebit. Whether or not they show up, hey, that's a matter for debate. But hey, why don't we go ahead and get started? So computer and technology news, and that of course is brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Oh wait, I got this. And no, don't. Here we go. Computer technology news brought to you by Computer America. So everyone, all right, so why don't we go ahead and start with the first one. So this first story, and this is something that broke kind of over the past couple of days, and I'm still not completely sure over really how to take this, because I think there's really a lot of layers to the story, and we did a piece about it a little while ago at Computer America. The article's still up. We'll probably, as soon as more breaks about this, we'll amend the article with the new updated information. But a couple of weeks ago, we had a story with about Huawei. Huawei is a company that you might not have heard of if you're, only focused on the U.S. market. Huawei hasn't made a lot of great strides here, and there's been a reason for that. There's been a very concerted effort by the U.S. government, by, the Justice Department, and really a lot of incumbent tech companies here to ban and bar and stop Huawei from selling everything from radio antenna to telecommunication hardware, so on and so forth. So all that is something that Huawei would like to do, and of course that directly competes with a lot of companies that such as Charter, AT&T, Verizon, and so there is competition there, and we had speculated. I'm sorry, folks, and we're going to come back to this article as soon as we can. But actually, we just got word from our producer that they are actually waiting on our phone call. So why don't we go ahead and try this one more time? So, all right, everyone, I know really got a hang of this. So here we go. Let's see if we can get our guest on the phone here. So let's do that. And everyone, so just hang tight, everyone.
The number you've dialed is not in service.
Perfect. That's not the right number. So, all right, let's try this one more time. So, okay. This one should work.
Oh. Marc Schneider.
Hey, Marc. Hi, Ben from Computer America. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you? I'm sorry that there was a little bit of a disconnect.
No problem. Hey, no problem. You're on, and so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So everyone, that new voice that you're hearing, want to go ahead and introduce him. And once again, our guest, as planned, and happy that we did get them on, is of course Zebit with a Z or with a Z, depending on where you are. And that is Mr. Marc Schneider. He is the president, CEO, and co-founder of the company. And this is a very unique idea as far as, and I hesitate to even really call it, like a lending company or even like really to explain the idea of Zebit, what they do, how they do it. Marc is the perfect man for the job, and let's go ahead and jump into this. So, Marc, welcome on to Computer America. And before we get started, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your audience today. Thank you.
Our pleasure. So, like I said, I think I had a really hard time, because we did the research and we read about it. But I am going to leave it to you to really kind of describe what Zebit is, because it's not a credit card. It's not it's not really a debit card, but it's an online marketplace for shopping, and you have your own unique way of kind of paying for things and getting the things to people. So if you could give some background on the company, and of course we'll get into the details on how you do it a little bit later, but just a general overview. When was the company started, and what is your background? How did you go about, or what brought you to co-found Zebit?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So the company was founded in 2015, but went into production in early 2017. And Zebit is, an e-commerce company that offers its own 0% financing. And we're fundamentally trying to change the way underserved consumers shop. And let me talk to you a little bit about our consumer base and why I'm so passionate about offering a different way to approach this market than anyone has ever done. So we service the 80% of consumers in the U.S. that live paycheck to paycheck, and they really have limited access to affordable credit. They tend not to be able to pay in full at the point of sale, and they're really relegated to predatory credit options like rent-to-own or lease-to-own, or take out a 400% payday loan to buy the things they need and pay over time. And this tends to cost most consumers 2 to 4 times the value of the product. And so for the last 10 years, I've been thinking about a way to fundamentally level the credit playing field for the mass consumer audience to give them a first-class ability to buy, products that they need to support their everyday life at competitive prices, and do it in a way that supports their financial volatility by getting them to pay over a 6-month period of time at 0%. And so fundamentally, Zebit believes that every single consumer deserves access to 0% credit, regardless of what your credit score is.
Very, very noble idea. And of course, I myself, when I first started, getting my first apartment and getting my first job, and this was years and years ago, like a decade. I know I'm super old, but like a decade ago, I had no credit whatsoever. And it was, I found myself signing up for things that I knew were a bad deal, but hey, you have no options. It's play by their rules. They have all the cards. And so I can completely, kind of commiserate with the target audience that you have here, because, and I think before we go any further, let's talk about, and you kind of describe who Zebit was for with, people who, although I guess if you want to clarify that a bit, is Zebit only for people with no credit or bad credit, or people who don't have access to any kind of lines of credit, or can people who do have a healthy line of credit, is Zebit still a viable option for just about anyone?
Yeah, I think Zebit is for everyday consumers that want everyday products at everyday prices, and they need the ability to spread their payments out over time because they can't handle that. I want to buy a new TV. I want to buy a new couch. I need to buy a set of tires. I need to buy jewelry for my wife or husband and have the ability to pay it off in full. We predominantly go after the subprime market because that's the majority of the American consumer base that really doesn't have a next best alternative. But for people that are, for example, buying something on Amazon or Walmart or Target, and they're not paying their credit card off in full, but they're paying anywhere from 14 to 36% APR by, spreading their payments out over their credit card, Zebit is a much more cost-effective way to buy the everyday goods that you need at 0% versus putting it on your credit card. I mean, 40% of the population carries, a $1 trillion credit card balance, which means the credit card companies are making a lot of money off of the inability for most consumers to pay in full at checkout.
Yeah, and that was and that actually kind of came to mind because obviously interest is and of course fees, they are a huge way that these institutions kind of prop themselves up and make a lot of money off of people who can't, like you said, afford to pay the entire price. You have here all over the website plastered 0% interest rate, that kind of thing. I mean, interest rate is really kind of the reason people do kind of do loans like this. So if you're not making money off of, the interest rate, the monthly payments, then where's your profit margin?
Right. And that's a fantastic question because nobody's been able to serve the underserved community without charging interest and fees and penalties. Actually, there are $70 billion a year in just interest and fees alone off of those predatory credit options that I told you about. So we do not charge interest or fees, even if somebody is delinquent, because Zebit was designed to help people get back on track. And so we make our money off of the difference between where we source the good from. So we are connected to about 100 different wholesalers and distributors and manufacturers that also service Walmart, Target, Amazon. And so it's basically what we negotiate the product at and how we competitively price the products on our site. And we have, we sort of coined the phrase, we're sort of Amazon for the underserved. We have 21 different product verticals, from tires to jewelry to home to electronics. And as we build more and more of a customer base that's buying more and more from us, we pass those savings on to the customer. But we make our money just like any other e-commerce company, which is the difference between what we buy a product at and how we sell it.
Now, we have, and we've seen other companies on the show, and this is the first time I've seen something like Zebit, but other kind of online wholesalers or I guess online retailers. And, sometimes they try to say, hey, we have the best TVs, we have the best speakers, we have the best XYZ, and they're from brands that you've never heard of. They are obviously shipped over from overseas, and they are of really, really poor build quality. And regardless of how good of a deal you think you're getting, you're never getting a good deal on a lot of the products. You have a lot of, kind of different examples here, and anyone watching the video portion, you can see them here. You have everything from like the Apple Watch to Amazon Fire, LG, Samsung. Like you have a lot of really, big brand names. And obviously if you're getting them from the same sources as Walmart, Target, places that people usually shop, they are the same products. So my question is, how many of the products that you sell are they all name brand or are they off brand? Yeah,
no, that's a great question. Everything we sell is first run name brand products. So you hit it on the nose. Everything from Bose to Beats headsets to LG, Samsung, all of Apple's products, even Amazon. Kindle we sell, and then brands in the home like Cuisinart. And on the handbag side, Coach, and on the tire side, we sell Goodyear tires and, et cetera. So no, everything we sell is first run. We're not actually bringing in product from China, at 10 cents of the dollar and trying to be, pass that off as first run product. We're also actually have refurbished product on the site as well specifically for electronics, whether those are TVs or iPads, et cetera, because not everybody sort of can afford a brand new product. Some people like refurbished products because they tend to be cheaper. But no, everything we carry is sort of name brand. We stand behind all of the products that we sell. If a customer ever gets a product that's defective or doesn't have the right parts, we immediately take it back and ship another to the satisfaction of that customer.
Yeah, and so obviously, if you would like, we can go through kind of the buying process, and there's a sign up period where you make an account, you sign up, and if you could explain why you kind of do that, because and I'm not saying that this is your business model, but one of my pet peeves are those sites that are like penny auctions. It's like, hey, real name brand stuff, and you pay X amount, bumps up the price. You're not doing that. You have an account, you buy the thing, you pay it off over time, you're done. Like, it seems that straightforward. And if you want to kind of guide us through, let's say, buying any example product, walk us through sign up to choosing, picking, buying, paying it off.
Yeah, I'd really happy to do that. And so you might hear about Zebit through a bunch of different ways. You can hear it through direct-to-consumer marketing, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Taboola. You could hear it through, we're connected to the largest benefit platforms in the country that actually run a lot of companies' intranet sites where they have our product feed. But if you found a way to find who we are, and you might have actually heard because about 25% of our customers come in through just word of mouth, and that, I think, is a testament to us having what we call a 74 net promoter score, which is an indication that people are willing to recommend Zebit because they believe in it. And so you found our landing page. You could actually preview our products. We have a preview site that shows you a very deep selection across the categories to give you confidence to apply. Everything we do is online. So if you come to www.zebit.com and you click register, it should take you about 90 seconds to about 3 minutes total to fill out a registration application. And really anybody that's 18 years old that makes $16,000 or more, and that we can validate that you're employed and that you have income. Since we do not pull a credit check, we do not pull a FICO score on any of our members. Once you go through that process, you put your name, your address, your employer, etc. We validate your identity, and then we validate your employment or income. And then we give you a line. And so think about that line as store credit that you can use in the Zebit marketplace. Once you have that line, you can shop just like any other normal e-commerce experience. Our average Zebit line is about $1,000, but you can get up to $2,500. You can put product in your cart. There is a down payment at checkout. Once you do that, you actually sign what's called a retail installment sales agreement, which is compliant with the state that you operate in. And we actually operate in all 50 states, so we're able to service all customers across the United States. We set up your installment schedule based on when you get paid, so we try to ensure that when your next payment is due, it's correlated to when you get paid, so you have availability of funds. About 95% of our customers sign up for autopay on their debit card that ties to their bank account, so we do not use mechanisms like ACH because they tend to lead to very, very high non-sufficient funds charges in customers, and we're trying to build a national brand here where we do no harm for our customers. Once the order is taken, we drop the order to our supplier. That happens same day. and the supplier ships out the good next day. And our average sort of time in transit, depending on what warehouse it comes from, is about 2 days. And then on your pay date, for those that have signed up for AutoPay, we collect the payment. That's sort of how it works.
Very, very simple, and obviously very straightforward. Now, and this is kind of more of a personal side to it, but
Go ahead.
I don't know if you've talked to many customers or the feedback that you've gotten, but this is something kind of different, because this isn't let's say debt consolidation. This isn't a lot of things like this is just getting people things that maybe you would really like a new stroller for your kid, or and I'm just picking off items from your website here, or maybe you really want to get a new TV to replace your old one. Like, these are kind of discretionary funds, or things that in a lot of cases they're like, I would really like to have that, but I just can't at the moment. How has the reaction been to for you to find a way to help people get things that kind of make their lives a little better, and do it through the way that Zebit does it?
Yeah, I think that so it feels amazing to try to actually finally deliver something that's helping people. I spent the last 28 years building companies, turning them around, buying them out of bankruptcy, and this is a company that's very, very mission driven, that's centered on helping people live with the financial volatility in their lives. And that financial volatility for most U.S. consumers never goes away. And so a testament to that, to know that we're doing right by people, is not only that we survey people every month and we consistently get this Net Promoter Score, which 74 is world class. It's like Netflix and Amazon and USAA. We also have a couple thousand Trustpilot reviews and I'll read one to you. Zebit gave me a chance when no one else would help me get the things that I need for me and my family, and I recommend this to anyone. And I think the biggest testament to whether you really have a customer as an advocate is they tell other people about your company. We offer nothing. We do not have a refer a friend program. Typically, companies give a bounty, like $10, $15 off, $20 off your next order, to refer people, right, as a means to acquire customers. We have none of that. And 25% of our new customers every month are from customers that experience Zebit, that know that we deliver on our value proposition. And when we fail to deliver, we make it right from a customer service perspective, always, because we know our goal is to have a customer that just doesn't buy from us once, but they buy from us again and again and again. And we have about 70% of our orders, monthly orders, from repeat customers as far back as 24 months ago. And so I think that's a real testament that we're building something here. We're doing it in a different way. And we're doing it, looking at the customer as, the most important thing, and how do we take care of them, and how do we fulfill their needs. But it's a collaborative opportunity. I mean, this is a chance for a customer to get a 0% credit facility. By the way, if you buy and pay back on time every time, we actually grow your 0% facility. So in year one, if you're sitting at a $1,000 debit line, you could be up to $1,500 by the end of year one. And so where else are you going to get a 0% credit facility where you can buy what you need at competitive prices, and it grows with you? Nowhere. Yeah. Not for mass America. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and trust me, we get a lot of pitches for the show to come on the show and things like that. And before any guest comes on the show, we kind of do the cursory, is this a legitimate service? And don't get me wrong. I mean, Zebit, I was like, this is the first time coming on the show that I've heard of you guys. I'm glad that you guys did decide to come on. But, we went to Google and looked for reviews and looked for people saying that, this wasn't legit or something like that. And, we found the occasional 1-star review. Like, my favorite 1-star review of Zebit was I couldn't finish the sign up process. And I was like, you can't really rate a service if you can't even get into the service. So that was a little weird to me. But overall, you had a lot of positive reviews, and none of them were overwhelmingly negative. So anyone out there listening, I promise, Zebit agreed to come on the show just, to get the word out and, be our guest. I couldn't find anything negative about you guys. So this sounds, I feel like I'm getting into paid infomercial kind of language here, but it sounds too good to be true. But you guys are doing something very different here. Do you know if anyone else is kind of doing this, or was this something that you had thought up?
I think we're the only company in the U.S. doing this. I think people or companies say that they're 0%, but there's always some kicker at the end where a lot of these financial programs have built-in gotchas, whether they're fees or penalties, where you can get. You probably have heard of the kind of the mattress ads, right? 6 months, 0% financing, or 12 months. Those programs are designed for you not to actually pay off on time, so that they can charge you the accumulated interest. Everybody's been through that. And so our biggest challenge, and we're not perfect. I mean, we take customer feedback really seriously. We get a lot of it every month, and we try to fix what's wrong here. But what we've tried to do, and our biggest challenge, is overcoming these guys have to have a gotcha. These guys have to be the same like everybody else. And quite frankly, my commitment to our customers is we built the company in order to be different, knowing that those alternatives that are out there are not good ones. And we have to prove it to every customer with every order and every payment that they make back to us.
So one thing that I did see highlighted here, and this is something that I really want to get the word out about, in Zebit, everything you're doing, it's very credit-like. It's, but you don't pull credit scores, like you mentioned a number of times. You don't report to credit agencies, as far as I know.
Correct.
This does not reflect on your actual credit. So if anyone out there is hoping that this is the way to kind of rebuild your credit or get credit, kind of rolling again, this is probably not the venue you want to do, correct?
Yeah, we unfortunately, a lot of the structures in the regulatory environment never contemplated a model like Zebit. So we've worked with all of the three bureaus, and we've worked with the CFPB, the regulatory agency at the federal level, to try to figure out how do we build people's trade lines. But two things: we do not pull a credit report, soft or hard inquiry at all. Zebit does not affect your FICO score at all. We would like the opportunity to build what we call people's trade lines. Right now, the format by which companies report back to the credit bureau does not contemplate, a merchant who's giving custom financing to its customers. And so we haven't figured it out yet. Our legal team is constantly working on ways in which to do it, but right now we do not do that. What I can say is this is a very cost-effective way to buy, spread your payments out over time, build a credit facility for yourself. But yes, we cannot, help building the trade lines, at this point in time.
Right, but like we've been saying, this is essentially everything that you would need to go through. It's just you are extending kind of that that $1,000. You're putting up money that credit card companies would never do, because if you don't have a credit score, they wouldn't even offer you the $1,000 to begin with.
Correct.
You're doing something very, very different here. So just want to make that very clear. If you're hoping that this is going to rebuild your credit, no, this is something that you do while you are rebuilding your credit elsewhere. You can also do this and get started with Zebit. So with that being said, let's see. So I might have to cut you off for a break, because we started a little bit late. And Marc, if we run over, hopefully you can stay. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. So one thing I want to ask, you have a lot of different you have a lot of different categories: jewelry, kids, furniture, kitchen, dining, home decor, and kind of funny because we were highlighting the technology stuff, the Beats, the Bose, the Apples, but then I saw I was clicking through and I was like, oh, you can get new tires on here. You have a lot of different categories. Are there any that people would be surprised by, or what are some of the more popular ones that maybe they wouldn't expect?
Yeah, so the ones that we have everything from, jewelry to fragrance to fashion. We're actually adding a lot more clothing and accessories. I think one of the most interesting things about Zebit is if you can't find it on our marketplace, and we added like 50 different wholesalers and distributors last year. We're going to add another 50 this year to expand the product category. Past musical instruments and books and stuff like that. We're the only company in the U.S. that actually finances electronic certificates. And so, for example, if you can't find what you want on Zebit, you can finance a Pep Boys electronic certificate, or you can finance a Macy's electronic certificate. So then you can go shop on or offline. And so really what we're trying to do is give portability to our customers. We'd rather people buy physical product from us, but if we can't do it because we can't give you that product, for example, if you want to go on a vacation and you need a hotel, well, we finance hotels.com electronic certificates. So we really try to have a broad and deep selection across almost every category, either through physical product or what I call virtual product. So people, I think, will be surprised at the level of selection and the competitive nature of what we offer and how we do it.
Yeah, I was kind of curious how the E certificates were up there, because we've also had companies on that buy actually buy the gift cards and send them out after you purchase them. But you can actually finance, so you could finance for Macy's if you wanted to. So actually, Marc, there's music playing in the background. We'll come right back. So everyone, we're talking to Zebit, and Zebit rhymes with debit, Zebit. We'll be right back. More Marc Schneider, more Computer America, and everyone, on the other side of the break, we will wrap up the interview, computer and technology news, and everyone, in the meantime, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, once again, if you're just joining us, if you missed any part of our conversation with Zebit, you can go ahead and check out the podcast version of the show. It's today's radio program, just simply rebroadcast, time shifted. So if you want to listen to us on your commute or something like that, we make that very simple. Wherever podcasts are heard, you can listen to Computer America. But we continue on with Computer America, and we continue on with Mr. Marc Schneider. He is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Zebit, and he's been walking us through this unique, kind of marketplace that they've set up, where just a simple registration, and then you're off to the races. You get essentially a line of credit through Zebit, although it's not really credit, but and hey, you choose what you want, you pay it off. And by the way, Marc, I should probably ask this as well. You mentioned, anywhere from like 1,000, 2,500, that can go up or down depending on, kind of what you pre-approve people for. And let's say, do you have any kind of cap on, let's say if someone buys like 5 $200 items, or can they only get one item, at first? Are there any other restrictions other than that kind of cap that you place on accounts?
No, so everybody starts off with an initial Zebit line, and that's really based on our evaluation of the affordability of the product. Because what we don't want to do is give someone too much store credit, right? So that we tip them over, which isn't productive for them. But there are no constraints in the order process. There's no minimum cart value. There's nothing like, oh, you can only buy one item, and until we see you pay off, you can never buy again. If, for example, you have $1,000 and your first purchase is $400, you could come back tomorrow, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, and then use the additional $600 as you want to use it. As long as you are keeping your payments current, the Zebit line is there for you. So there are no restrictions in how somebody can actually use their Zebit line.
So here's the question: as Zebit grows, and as more people come to the marketplace, as more people kind of hear about you, and you're starting to service more and more people, hopefully, obviously, you make your bottom line. Everyone gets the items that they want. Everything is hunky dory. But do you think that this kind of model that you're putting up here, because you're kind of working not really alongside, like not hand in hand with credit companies, but if this style of shopping catches on, because if people didn't have to deal with credit bureaus, then I know a lot of people who would actually prefer to do it this way than to have to report to a credit bureau. If this catches on, if you become the next Amazon, let's say, and you are suddenly a $100 billionaire, let's talk about where you think all this goes. Like, do you see yourself do you see yourself like maybe working more closely with credit card companies because they have to at that point, or do you see yourself always being independent of credit agencies? More retailers obviously will sell through you, and maybe they'll work with you. Where would you like to see Zebit go?
Yeah, so we are clearly on a mission here to grow a big company that services the majority of the U.S. consumers that do not have affordable access to credit. And so at that size, I think we have a couple of things going on. We've grown the core base. We have a very sticky customer here who trusts us and buys over and over again and refers people. And so we're going to start contemplating, offering them different services. Because once you have the trust of a customer, the real trust, right, where you've been dealing with somebody for years and you haven't let them down, and when you do make a mistake, you take accountability for it and you make up for it. We can offer other services like fee-free banking, et cetera, that are out there. But as far as, the data goes and what's going on with sort of credit bureaus, I mean, look, our sort of secret sauce in how we build this model is not just having a very streamlined e-commerce model where we're not having all of these quote-unquote gross margin eating exercises like returns and inventory risk, et cetera. And it's not also that we just offer different purchase options. Like even for our best customers, we're about to roll out a 12-month 0% offer to them. And for customers that cannot afford a down payment at checkout, we're going to offer what's called a deferred shipment, just to spread out the payment on the down payment to allow them to engage. But what we're really doing here is really through data science, and we're really understanding the risk of our customers because we have a closed marketplace, because we can see all the behavior. And so what is that going to do? We are fundamentally building risk scores for every single customer. So just think of this as an internal quote-unquote credit score. Mm-hmm. That score will be much deeper and have much more granularity to companies like credit bureaus and loan agencies and the Walmarts, Targets, Amazons of the world who really want to service this space but don't understand the risk of servicing. And just by pulling a credit report doesn't really tell you a lot because there's not deep trade line information there. So the data in the marketplace as people are shopping and we're evaluating the risk of, who to give more to and who maybe to wait a little more is going to become very valuable for other companies. But I think the short answer, and I apologize to your question, is we want to build a big marketplace. We want to continue to give access. I think we'll add ancillary services like banking and other things. We want to give portability. So for our customers that have really proven themselves, why can't we give you portability on a card to go shop wherever you want, right? Mm-hmm. And Zebit as a payment checkout mechanism. And so we are contemplating partnerships with companies like Best Buy, et cetera, where we can be part of their point of sale. Because there's a lot of our customers that go into Best Buy, they might buy headphones, but they're not buying a refrigerator or a dishwasher or a new TV, et cetera, because they cannot qualify for the co-branded credit card that's sitting there. So we're really looking to extend our reach to give our customers the ability to shop where they want. We hope they shop in the Zebit market. If they find better alternatives out there, we want to also extend, their ability to do that. So that's going to be in the works over the next couple of years.
So if I'm getting this right, what I heard was that you're hoping to help, I guess kind of spread the idea of a Zebit score, where you have a credit score and potentially maybe even something that is ancillary to a credit score. And hey, if you don't get a credit, or if you don't even want a new credit card branded whatever, you can get a Zebit card. And hey, I honestly, with the amount of data, and I know that credit card companies are huge into data, but even they have to, even they have 100+ years of financial regulation weighing them down. I think you're onto something here. I really do. Because I did not know how this interview was going to go. If it was going to be something that it's like, oh, this, it's a pipe dream. But no, you seem to actually have your ducks in a row. So this is very, very cool. I'm trying to see. Let's see if there are any. You know what? I'll leave it to you, Marc. Are there any other parts here that we didn't cover about Zebit? Anything you want to really highlight about Zebit that we didn't talk about?
No, I think you did a phenomenal job of describing it to your audience. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity. I would encourage everybody to give it a try. I think that like I said, our biggest challenge is to convince people that we are doing the impossible, right? Because nobody has ever been able to offer a 0% credit facility, store credit, to the mass audience, right? There's always some catch, or there's always, I can give you 0%, but I'm going to charge you 70% more than what the product is worth. We're trying to do something fundamentally different. It's a collaborative effort with customers. Customers come in, they experience, they buy from us, they pay us back. We reward them through good behavior. This is about building a big business for both customers and investors, and doing it in a highly transparent, white hat way. And really doing it without all of the other things that basically make payday lenders and high-cost predatory options what they are, which is interest and fees and putting people in a constant cycle of debt. Zebit is here to help with financial instability. We depend on our customers, and I think our customers depend on us to deliver, what we say. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to, articulate that on the show. Getting more people that know about Zebit is critically important to us as we grow and scale. And, thank you very much for what you've done.
Our pleasure. And one more thing before you go, if people want to find out more, where's the best place to go?
Best place to go is www.zebit.com.
All right, perfect. And over at computeramerica.com in the show notes, we'll include a link and everything that we talked about here today. And I got to say, Marc, thank you so much for coming on. This was a real pleasure, honestly, and look forward to hearing more of Zebit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. All right, everyone. So there he goes. And for anyone out there who maybe is just joining us, wasn't paying attention, hasn't had their coffee yet, even though it's like 3 or 4:40 p.m. Everyone, hey, that was a really interesting interview. I highly recommend you go check out the podcast for the entire interview to see what it's all about. But that was Zebit, and that is a company dedicated to helping you afford the things that you really want. So let's say a new TV, a new tablet, a new vacuum cleaner, a new dishwasher, a new refrigerator, something, and let's say you don't have very good credit. This is something besides credit. This is something where you sign up, you prove you have an income, you prove that you have any ability to pay whatsoever, and they extend to you a line of their own personal kind of funds. And let's say they approve you for $1,000, then hey, anything under $1,000 or any combination of up to $1,000, you purchase it. It shows up at your door. You put in a down payment, from what I heard, and you pay off the amount over the course of 6 months, 12 months, whatever. Something that is a little bit more affordable than just paying in cash up front. This is not a credit reporting agency. This does not report to any kind of credit card companies, but at the same time, it works very similarly. So Again, if anyone out there, that's a quick overview, and you can see a full list of products there at their website. Or, as I said before, check out the archives of the show, and you can, hear it straight from the co-founder, CEO, and president's mouth. But very interesting. And once again, Zebit, if you're listening, thank you for coming on the show. Okay, everyone. There we go. That's that. And very happy to get our interview in today. But with the beginning, if you didn't catch that, we started on a story that we are going off of the BBC's reporting, and we were doing computer and technology news. We'll play the jingle again, but essentially it's a story about Huawei. So we're going to try to jump back into this, try to get as detailed as we'd like to, but there's just more we need to know about the story. So here we go, computer technology news, once again brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, everyone. So our first story that we're going, well, actually, and I don't know how long this is going to take, but this is going to be a very interesting one, because a couple of months ago we did a story, again to recap, we wrote an article about Huawei and the anti-competitive nature of the U.S. government, of other businesses in the United States having, and how they had leverage over Huawei, who, again, Huawei is a manufacturer of phones and digital devices, second only to Samsung at this point. They are bigger than Apple. They are bigger than any other company other than Samsung that you can think of, and they are quickly rising because Huawei actually has a huge foothold in India. So in developing markets, Huawei is your phone to go. Now, such a big phone company, such a big telecommunications company, how can they not be in the United States? Well, we had reported that the U.S. government was being very anti-competitive towards them. They were essentially saying, don't buy these phones. They did not have an outright ban on Huawei devices. You could still buy them if you went onto their website, ordered them. You could activate them at Verizon, AT&T, any of the cell phone carriers, Sprint, whatever, T-Mobile. You could activate them at any of those stores. It's just those stores would not fund you a phone from Huawei. So if you don't know anything about this, the market as far as phones, tablets, and things like that, most of them are leased over 2 to 3 years. And when I say most, I mean 90%. That's a real number. 90% of phones bought in the United States are purchased over that 2 to 3 year plan. Meaning, if no cell phone carrier would work with you and say, hey, we're going to offer Huawei phones with a 2-year contract, you had no hope of getting a foothold in the U.S. market. And we saw that companies were on the threshold. They were on the brink. They were like a week away from saying, hey, we are going to be working with, I think it was T-Mobile, was the one that they were going to work with. And about a week before they were supposed to make that big announcement and start up everything, the Department of Justice, I believe, really put their weight onto the telecommunications companies and said, don't make partnerships with Huawei. We don't want Huawei Chinese phones in our ecosystem. And they backed out. The U.S. government completely said, whoa, cool your jets. Again, no clear bans and nothing else coming out of the story until a little while ago. And by a little while ago, I mean a couple of days. We haven't had the chance to talk about it. There were some other developments, including the daughter of the CEO of the company, who I think works as like the chief operations officer, something like that. Her name is Meng Wanzhou. And she is let's see if I can pick out of the article here real quick. And, we're kind of glancing at this article from the BBC, but she was like the COO or something like that. But she's essentially the daughter of the company's founder. And so she holds a very high place. And not only that, she holds a high place with the company she holds a high place with the founder of the company who can really direct, what they do. So when I said that there are different levels to the story, it's because the US and China have been dealing with a lot of political issues, and we're not a politics show. I can't get into them, but safe to say, there are tariffs going around. There's a trade dispute. There's talk of a trade war, things like that. Any kind of leverage, I think, that the US can put on Chinese entities, Chinese companies, and trust me, when it comes to Huawei and just how China works with its businesses, the Chinese government has a lot of say in what happens with Chinese businesses. They're almost co-owned by the People's Republic of China. So I'm not saying that the government has no part in Huawei. Huawei and the government and the Chinese government are really hand in hand. There's no doubt about that. And then on top of that, there was this whole U.S. charge with, with the founder's daughter helping Hewlett Packard, I believe, sell, it was like fax machines or printers or something like that to Iran. And yeah, so they got her. They're going to extradite her to the U.S. They're going to try her on like treason or whatever it is, whatever the charge is. But here's my point with all this. There's a lot of moving parts, from the tariffs to the trade dispute to the daughter of the founder of the company and the U.S. and the legal action they can take against her. All this justified. All this completely in the right. It's just how much does the U.S. government really care about printers being sold to Iran a little while ago, with sanctions in place? And how much of this is that they get Huawei to kind of back off? They get some leverage on the Chinese government through their, through the legal system. And I would not be surprised if we saw that this person, the daughter of the founder, returned to China with charges dropped and a more favorable trade agreement reached. And then, of course, there's a lot of allegations of IP stealing and so on and so forth by Huawei. And I don't know, there's more to the story that they're not telling us, because Huawei operates in a lot of different countries that aren't just the US. Like, if you're US centric, then you could really think that, wow, this evil Chinese run corporation Huawei is trying to get one over on America, and luckily our defenses aren't going to have it. But Huawei does a lot of business in Europe. It does a lot of business in Africa and parts of China, and obviously China, in South Korea. It has a lot of business in India. Being the number 2 phone manufacturer in the world, you do a lot of business in a lot of places that, even if you don't do it in the US, you're still operating in South America and so forth. If they couldn't be trusted carte blanche, they should not be in business whatsoever. If any Western power, if any other country was really afraid of them stealing their telecommunications, secrets or whatever, then Huawei would be blacklisted so fast you wouldn't even know what to do with yourself. But it's only in America. Canada is currently working with them. Mexico is currently working with them, only in America. And I really do feel like this whole story, while, the U.S. Justice Department is going to be charging the daughter of the founder with, evading those sanctions, that's not going to be the end of the story or her story or Huawei's story. So there you go. And of course, we wrote an article about it. I was coming at it from information that this adds to it, but it doesn't answer all of our questions. And we'll certainly amend that article on our website as soon as this kind of plays out. But just kind of speaking here on the radio and just kind of out loud about this whole thing, there are a lot of companies, a lot of phone companies, device manufacturers out there that spend billions of dollars in lobbying efforts for the U.S. government. There's a lot of money to be had for lawmakers if they make sure that competition is stifled. And it really seems that way to me, that instead of having the number 2 device manufacturer in the world enter the U.S. with what is undoubtedly going to undercut a lot of these other services, because Huawei is known for their much more affordable phones. They're not as good as Apple. They're not as good as Samsung. They're kind of like the HTC replacement. They're middle range to lower end, and they are competitive in every other market. So I think to let them into the US market would be really catastrophic to a lot of these companies' bottom line. So this is me just thinking out loud. This is something that we're going to follow, but we don't have the whole story here. Yeah, that's I'm not disputing anything that the BBC claims, that the Department of Justice claims about Huawei, about IP stealing, about the daughter of the founder, circumventing the sanctions on Iran. I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just saying it's all pieces to a different puzzle than I think what they're laying out here. So everyone, there's that story. So while we're at it, let's see. So while we're at it, and I really want to keep an eye on that one. So we only have time for about one more story, and I think we're going to do this one. And because it's kind of related, not strictly related, but at the same time, big moves in the telecommunication industry. Why don't we go ahead and put it that way? So if you're watching the video portion, you can see the signatures up there, and those signatures themselves mean House lawmakers are supporting T-Mobile and Sprint merger, have taken over $2.4 million from telecom giants. There you go. They said that late Monday afternoon, so yesterday, Politico reported that a small handful of House lawmakers had issued a letter to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, our favorite commission in the world, right? Yeah. So, have issued a letter to the FCC and the DOJ supporting the merger of T-Mobile and Sprint. That's right. Led by Reps Anna Eshoo and Billy Long, the letter misleadingly claims that the merger will provide consumers with lower costs, because when you go from 4 competitors in a very sought-after market to 3 competitors, prices lower because competition is flourishing. Right? Right. Maybe. Whatever. And they said, and this is, and of course, the article itself says, even though experts have shown that less mobile competition will lead to higher wireless costs for the entire country, hurting marginalized and low-income communities the most. So the problem with that, and by the way, this is for Fight for the Future. I believe they're a kind of political leaning. They're a political leaning publication, but here's the thing. This has been outlined before. T-Mobile and Sprint, they are losing the battle against their competitors, AT&T and Verizon, when it comes to cell phone carriers. They can't compete. AT&T and Sprint, T-Mobile and Sprint just can't compete by themselves against the other two. If the two were to merge, don't get me wrong, they would be in a much better position to actually compete with the ad revenue that they put out, with the networks that they actually provide, more so than they could alone. Honestly, it really feels like you have these two mega behemoths, the Verizon and the AT&T of the world, and then about 2 steps down on the ladder, you have your T-Mobile and Sprint, and they're trying to compete. You've heard of them, you know of them, but they're really not competing as far as the business goes. And the financials of it all, they're really just not on a competitive level. So they're trying to get up there to that first rung, along with them. But overall, what does this mean for the market? And it means one less competitor to actually compete. So they said that responding to this Monday's letter, Fight for the Future director Evan Greer had this to say. Says that this letter looks like it was written by a T-Mobile lobbyist. No elected representative in their right mind would be supporting a merger, higher cell phone bills, blah, blah, blah. Essentially saying that, this was bought and paid for by the telecom industry. So there you have it. It's the telecom industry is consolidating to a point that if listeners out there are if their memory goes back far enough, you may remember your Bell, was it Bell South and the Bell Telecommunications. There was a time when communications companies, phone carriers or not phone carriers, but home phone and things like that, were so dominant. I think it was like in the mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s. They were so dominant, they had to be forcibly split up. And at this point, all of those had kind of came back together under the same one or two companies, and they're now even more consolidated than they were when they were broken up decades ago. This was a problem before, it's a problem today, and it will continue to be a problem. Whether or not we see that actually addressed, hey, that's loud. So, whether or not that actually happens, we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, everyone, that music that just popped up in there, that is the end of the show. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and joining us on the show today and really, having a good time with us. So again, if you didn't hear about our guest Zebit, Zebit, you can check out the show notes. We'll have a link to the website, or you can check out Computer America wherever podcasts are heard. And in the meantime, once again, thank you to Marc. Thank you to everyone out there that has listened to Computer America. Tune in tomorrow on the program, as we are going to be talking to Scott Schober, our favorite correspondent, and we don't say that about every correspondent, our favorite correspondent, all about security, all about news, and everyone, stay tuned. Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
You know I'm with you.